Imagine American soldiers landing on the capital and towns in the west of Greenland, hanging up the American flags and claiming liberation from the Greenlanders' own democratically elected government. This would probably spark Denmark to invoke NATO's Article 5 in order to defend their land from this aggressive invasion. Or they won't invoke Article 5. Let's first talk about what could happen if they do. Quick reminder for those that do not know, Article 5 roughly means an attack against one is an attack against all and compels all alliance countries to help the defender against an invader. There are a lot of problems and concerns to think of if this were to happen. Canada. Canada is the only NATO state with a land border against the US. Their army isn't the greatest and they host very few troops from other NATO countries because the only border they have is with the United States, who is also a NATO member. If they accepted this Article 5 and joined the defense of Greenland, then they would probably get occupied as well and most likely be annexed by the United States. I think they would ignore Denmark in order to preserve themselves, but even then they might still get attacked for the reasoning that they could join the war in the future, so it's the safest for the United States to take them out now. Then there are the British Virgin Islands, the French Caribbean Islands, and the Dutch Caribbean Islands, whom would all be within easy range for the United States to scoop up. They would be nearly impossible to defend for the Europeans, so the UK, France and the Netherlands might refuse an Article 5 in order to prevent their land from getting yoinked. Same for Portugal, who will probably be concerned about the safety of the Azores Islands and their mainland being among the easiest targets to bomb. Iceland is the closest European NATO country to Greenland, but they don't have a standing army and would either have to host NATO allied troops, which would take a considerable amount of time to prepare, or be invaded if it were to follow Article 5. Not to mention, everyone that joins the war would be getting bombed, Denmark especially. This is not to say that European NATO wouldn't come to help. The nations of Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria and Greece have a large interest in defending Greenland and Denmark, because they would want the alliance to do the same for them if they ever got attacked. Similarly, we do not know what Spain, France, the UK, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, etc. would do when push comes to shove. They might accept, they might reject. This is something only time can really tell. So it's very difficult to know who would and wouldn't help out. If most European members joined in, then a full-scale war would almost certainly enter a stalemate. The US, while more militarily powerful, still has their international power projection to focus on, lest other countries take advantage of their preoccupied state. And while the US has the most powerful military in the world, they can't project all that much power against a large European coalition. There are only so many missiles and so many boats in their fleets, and Europe would be getting a defender's advantage. The US would have the advantage against Canada and small distant European islands, imagine New Caledonia, the Falklands, the ABC Islands, those ones. But aside from that, there would be a slog where both sides lose and gain very little. Denmark would become a forever enemy of the United States. The rest of Europe would probably follow that mindset too. NATO, the strongest military alliance in all of human history, would be fractured and the world would become unstable to the point that a lot of wars could potentially start. With no one around to prevent the fire from getting worse and everyone fighting for their own interests, many countries will realize that they can finally start the wars they've always wanted to do but couldn't due to the risk of US, NATO or UN intervention or sanctions. If you think that seems unlikely, consider how many disputed borders we currently have in the world. I would list them out, but it would seem ridiculous. Never mind all the ongoing civil wars and ambitious regional powers that want to expand their influence. But if a small amount of European nations help Denmark out, then we'll probably see quite a chaotic situation that will seriously put into question European unity. The United States would probably win, the nations that fought will not trust the ones that didn't anymore, and NATO would probably rip apart. But that's if Denmark invokes Article 5. What if they don't? Let's say US troops enter Greenland, Denmark protests, but they're not really feeling it and don't fight back. The US doesn't pursue further action against Denmark. What would happen? I believe there's a good chance that the United States would get removed from NATO, or that the alliance fractures and becomes far weaker than it used to be. And there would be a lot of chaos that follows there. Like, if Greenland can be invaded and annexed so easily, what about Canada? They have a way smaller army compared to the US, surrounded in the west with Alaska, the south with the mainland, and the north and east by Greenland. They wouldn't stand a chance. And if the excuse to invade a foreign country can be as simple as, we need it for defense, then there's really no doubt that they absolutely would try the same with Canada, or Cuba, the Bahamas, parts of Mexico, or Panama. Who knows? Either way, if an invasion happens, no matter what action gets taken afterwards, the entire global political system and alliance structure will be seriously altered. But how likely is that Greenland invasion? It feels possible but not guaranteed. This could be a diversion for Europe to worry about, while Trump actually focuses on South and Central America. Who knows? But we do have a deadline for when this possible Greenland takeover seems most likely to happen. There are 10 months until the next US midterms elections, where the Democrats have the possibility of regaining a majority in either the House or Senate. And 12 months from now, the results of the midterms are sworn in. So, if they seriously want Greenland, then they'll likely strike before the end of the year. This doesn't rule out the possibility of them attacking after the deadline or not attacking at all. It's just that if they want to do it with as little congressional resistance at home, it would be this year. I believe that the only way this ends positively is if nothing were to happen. And I hope for that. Because the possible alternative is the kind of conflict that everyone thinks about when they hear the year 2026 in the future. Just like how we think about 1914 and 1939, 1940. But we will see what happens. Hopefully nothing. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you later. Bye!